like to welcome Dr. Lori Desautels to our event today. I'm so happy that you're here. So Dr. Lori Desautels is the author of several publications and recently published her fourth book, Connections Over Compliance, Rewiring Our Perceptions of Discipline. Today, she'll be looking through a new lens of discipline. The calm regulated adult can calm a dysregulated child, which we've been talking about this so far today, but a dysregulated adult can never regulate a child or an adolescent. Dr. Lori offers an insight into the framework of applied educational neuroscience and provides strategies and practices preparing the brain to learn while dampening down our stress response system and attuning to the development of the brain state of our children. So welcome. Like, you do so many amazing things, and I just can't wait to hear what you've got here for us today. And I do know that you also have the 4 pillars of applied neuroscience. And I know that you've got your PowerPoint there, so we can just go ahead. Oh, I can't hear you now.
Let me, there, sorry, I just muted.
Now I can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, I'll go ahead and share my screen. Thank you all for sharing this Saturday afternoon. And in 30 minutes, this is always challenging for me, to kind of give you just a brief infomercial. And I may skip through some of my slides, but yes, I'm spending my time right now. I am an assistant professor at Butler University here in Indianapolis, Indiana. And but I think that the core, the foundation of my work is being back in the classroom. And so 2 days a week, I am co-teaching in a morning and an afternoon, a couple of mornings. And honestly, I thought last year was the hardest year. I was with 3rd and 4th grade and then 2nd and 6th grade. But this year I have no words for what this has been like for educators and for staff and for students and for parents. I mean, it's been, I've never seen anything like this in my 30 years in education. I truly, it's been so challenging.
Yeah.
So
do you think it has a lot to do with the COVID and
oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is a pandemic that this is hitting our kids in year 3. And so, for instance, our 4th grade students have never really had, I mean, the last time they had a year in school that was so-called normal was in 1st grade. Our 7th grade students, where I'm in right now, middle school, you know, have not experienced upper elementary or early middle school. So we are seeing a significant social loss this year, and we see it across the globe. This is not just, you know, in a certain district or state or country. I mean, our kids are coming back and they have forgotten how to be with each other and also how to be in school. And so unfortunately right now, and I'm hopeful, but I do feel that we are returning to school systemically as if things are normal. And the behavioral challenges that we're seeing from our students is really about a dysregulated nervous system. So behaviors are the signal, but what's underneath that behavior is, you know, why we're seeing such, we say in our house, you know, behaviors are rough, or you're having a rough day. That is all about how we're experiencing our environment, how we're experiencing the world and perceiving the world around us. And it's true for both staff and for students.
That is for sure.
So Debbie, do you want me just to continue to share, or would you rather ask questions? I mean,
yeah, well, I think that go ahead and share, and then I can just come in and ask some questions because you've got a lot of stuff to offer, some awesome stuff to offer.
Okay, so yes, and feel free to interrupt me. I just love this quote because I don't think there's ever been a time where the adults need each other more. And I love this. What is the bravest thing you've ever said? Asked the boy. Help, said the horse. And traditionally in schools, we tend to work in silos. And we also tend to think that if we do ask for help, or if we do feel inadequate emotionally, or, just like we're struggling, that feels to be like a weakness for many adults. And when I speak to schools all over the country and the world, this is something that, we need each other right now, and we need to ask for help. That is about the most courageous thing that we can do right now.
And I have to say that a lot of parents feel that they're alone in their journey.
Yes.
And they're feeling isolated. I mean, a lot of times we have felt alone and isolated, but I think even more so now.
Oh, absolutely. And just again, as the adults, whether we're parents or teachers, it's really important to check in with our own nervous system, and to really understand that when I'm calm, and I wish I had known this as a mom with my 3 children. And actually, I'll go back to this picture right here. These are my 3 adult children now, 4 actually, because I have a son-in-law. But I would have been a very different parent had I known what I know today. I was focusing on behaviors. I was focusing on consequences. I was not delving into how my own children were sensing and feeling their worlds. And so this framework that I'm going to be talking about, applied educational neuroscience, is about us as parents. It's about us as partners in our relationships, in our professional worlds. I mean, it just touches you in every moment. There's not a day that I don't wake up and think about, how I'm experiencing this moment in my brain and body. So it's been, and I am parenting still. It's not like you quit parenting when they're 23, 26, and 30. It's a constant journey, but I know that I'm seeing today, I think 5-year-olds and our 4-year-olds that know this, and our 8 and 10-year-olds, how exciting it is for them to understand that their nervous system is always working for them, and that there's nothing wrong with me. I'm not a bad kid, and I'm doing the best I can, but my brain and body are responding in a way that makes me irritable or anxious. So
I think this is really important, because like you said, that like before, and even now, a lot of parents that I'm working with, they still teach the behavior instead of understanding exactly what our stress system is going through. And I think this is really, really valuable information to put out there.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I love this quote from Pam Leo, and we really see this in our homes, and we see this in schools. You can't teach children to behave better by making them feel worse. When children feel better, they behave better. And when I think about this as a mom, I think about this as a teacher, a school counselor. We know that behavior really is just a signal. And when we are only focusing on the behavior, the only thing that we're focusing on is compliance or obedience. And we're not really going for that sustainable behavioral change. And we see that with patterned, repetitive behaviors. If the behavior is not lessening, or if it's staying the same or getting worse in our schools or in our homes, our discipline data speaks to that. So this framework really looks at connections over compliance through those 4 pillars. And I love this quote. This is out of my book, and it's from Professor William Morse of the University of Michigan. And he shares this with teachers in training, but I think it's just true for us all. The day you forget that under some life circumstances, you could have ended up like one of your most troubled children, or adolescents or students is the day you should quit. You will have lost your ability to, you will have lost your ability to respond with empathy.
That's
And
empowering.
I think, and I really do, that just really shares that it takes a calm adult to calm a child. So many of our children and our adolescents, school is their space of safety, and that's where they feel loved and they feel safe. Not all children, but many of our children come to school for that. And many of our children that are struggling emotionally have learned to associate adult intervention with adult rejection. So one of the things that I share, as a former special ed teacher, our goal is to reinterpret adult intervention as an act of protection rather than an act of hostility. And this is from Dr. Nicholas Long's work in the early 2000s and Frank Fesser. So very, very important to understand that. This right here says it all. And what we don't see when we're just looking at behaviors from our prickly children or adolescents is that oftentimes when we are living in chronic unpredictability, and the COVID was that, just that, we were isolated, we were living with this uncertainty, and we felt restrained. And when our stress response systems are always turned on and turned up, that creates inflammation in the brain. And so I love this because this red area shows that when your brain and body are constantly producing stress hormones, you literally live in, and you're just kind of treading life in this hyper vigilant or hyper arousal or even a shutdown survival state. And so we keep looking at behaviors, but what we don't understand is that underneath that behavior is a brain and a nervous system that is just overactive or has become oversensitive, has been highly sensitized to just everything around us, because we are constantly scanning our environments for anything that feels unfamiliar or threatening, or it feels unsafe. And that
especially for our children that have unpredictability in their life, they're always scanning. They're always hyper vigilant.
Yeah, absolutely. And our younger children, and when you think about brain development, the brain develops from the very back to the front. So when we come into the world, unless we had a significantly premature birth, the brain stem, which is obviously, you all know, down here, is really, it's developed coming into the world. The rest of the brain is waiting for experiences to develop that brain. And so in this red area, so if you think about, here's the brain stem, and then in this red area is the limbic system. And that limbic system is our emotional system. It's also our learning system. So it processes, it's kind of like the brain's smoke detector. And so when there's an area called the amygdala, and when that amygdala is firing like fireworks, then we can't get to this prefrontal cortex. And right here behind your eyebrows, right here is where we do school, and it's where we do life. And this is not finished developing until late 20s, in sometimes 30s. So our children come into this world with, human beings are the only mammals where it takes over 25 to 30 years to develop into young adulthood. So it is that the greatest time of brain and nervous system development is in the first 1,000 days of life. And in that first 1,000 days of life, the brain is wiring up. The neurons are connecting I mean, just millions and millions of neurons are connecting rapidly in that first 1,000 days of life. And there's some research that shares like 20,000, or I think Harvard just came out with a million synapses are forming per second.
Yes, yeah, I heard that one too. It's crazy, isn't it? So, and this is
Yeah.
what kind of concerns, well, not concerns, this is what we have to be aware of too. Some of our children, when they're born, they might have been like born premature and they don't have that connection with the parent, like they're in an incubator. So that's their first experience. Or some kids are taken away from their parents and into foster care, and then they go through the foster care, realm of things. So it makes it really, we have to be aware of some of these children that have gone through trauma right at the very beginning. But this is my question for you. So even like for the first 1,000 days, our neurons, our healthy neurons are bopping out there, and they're getting hardwired for connection and attachment. So when a child is lacking at the very beginning of their life, we can help them grow new pathways to inhibit those other ones. Is that right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And so that's my work in the schools right now with children and adolescents, and really with all. I mean, the work that we're doing right now in the schools is we're really helping. So let me explain this. So yes, you have what you just described is plasticity. And so if children if they missed out on through those early years, if they did not have secure attachment, and we know that attachment is the carrier of brain development. And so when you have a caregiver or an adult in your life that is predictable and emotionally available and consistent, that really is a huge protective factor and buffer in how the brain develops. But if you grow up with chronic unpredictability and the care that you are given is inconsistent, or your caregiver is not always emotionally present for you, then the brain literally, down in these lower regions in that brainstem in the midbrain area, our development is compromised. But the good news is that through sensory and regulatory practices that whether that's using movement, using breath, using rhythm, using touch, heat, pressure, through sensory practices, we meet children where they are, and we can begin to provide experiences that calm this inflammation and help our students get to this prefrontal cortex. If you cannot get to the cortex, you cannot learn.
Right.
And that's what's so important here. The other wonderful news is that, I mean, it's kind of like two sides of the same coin. We know that adverse childhood experiences happen to all of us. Nobody is immune to adversity in life. Mm-hmm. We all go through trauma. We all go through adversity. And the lists of the types of adversity, which happen on a continuum, are vast. It started with the first 10 adversities listed in the largest public health study in the mid-90s. But today we know that there are so many adversities that impact the developing brain and body, but also there are community and generational adversities and trauma. And so if, in our generations that, we know that I think 4 to 7 generations, trauma can be carried at this, we know that probably more than that, but right now 4 to, about through 7 generations. So this is something that, we really, as the adults, we need to be aware of. We need to understand what our traumas have been and what we've carried into a family. So, but the brain is built for resilience. The brain is built to heal and to repair. And I just love this photo because even though past generations really influence some of the future generations with pain, we can break that chain of pain through knowledge and through understanding and through connection and through implementing these practices that we now understand can calm and dampen down our stress response systems. So we all have a story that we carry in our nervous systems. And trauma is never about an event, because trauma lives in the nervous system. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about generational trauma or intergenerational trauma. But what happens is that oftentimes we see children kind of stuck in that fight, flight, or shutdown because that past experience feels like it's happening right now. So if I hear the sound of a door slamming or someone's loud voice or dripping water or see a white van driving across a parking lot, that can trigger my stress response system, and I can get thrown even though I'm in a safe, connected place. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, it makes sense to me. I'm just hoping, I'm pretty sure everybody else can see that too, because I think all of us, like you said before, we come from some sort of or kind of trauma as well. But being aware of our stress response system is really huge in order for how we affect our children going forward. It's all about us.
Yes, absolutely. So let me just share, and again, this is going to be, let me just share some things that we're doing that can really, Dr. Dan Siegel says, what you can name, you can tame, and what is shareable is bearable. But I want to add to what therapist Deb Dana shares about that too. When you can recognize how you're feeling in your body, you create resiliency within your nervous system. You create the space for that. So one of the things that would be really just so beneficial in a classroom or in our homes is to have our children create nervous systems, the story of their nervous system through a tree. And this is, we actually are doing this with adults and with children. So for instance, the trunk of the tree, so let's start at the roots. So the roots are just things, you know, your values, your traditions, your belief systems, things that you hold close to your heart. And then the trunk of the tree are maybe your future dreams, your goals, your ambitions, you know, your passions, your interests. The leaves of the tree are the people that you trust. So it's, you know, those are the people that you just rely on, that feel good to your nervous system. And then this is a little bit different. Resilience is shown through the sunshine, and resilience are the things that help you to feel better. Some of us love to exercise when we're stressed. Some of us need to crunch on something, maybe crushed ice. Some of us love to take a hot shower to make us feel better, or wrap up in a big blanket. This week in school, I took hand warmers to my students, and I gave those as an option, giving yourself a hand massage with hand lotion. We use essential oils, just sometimes putting it on a cotton ball and smelling lavender. Just drawing, using art is drawing, doodling, coloring. Journaling is one of the healthiest things we can do as human beings. So these are practices that build resiliency. And then it's important to identify your stressors. So some of the things that are really challenging right now, you know, and COVID would be one. Maybe you've lost someone that you loved recently. Maybe there was, you know, some sort of a breakup, or, you know, something happened with a parent. But we really encourage, and you can see here some examples. We do this with adults because, again, discipline and working with children that are really struggling begins with me. Discipline is about my nervous system. Behavior management is not about children. Behavior management is about the adults, because when I have recognized my nervous system state and I'm modeling the behaviors I want to see. I'm taking 3 deep breaths. I'm grabbing a nice cold bottle of water. I'm saying to a child, you know what, I'm going to go walk for just a couple of minutes. When I'm modeling the behaviors that I want to see and naming these, then that is when we see sustainable behavioral challenge, or I'm sorry, sustainable behavioral changes. One more activity that I want to share with all of you, because it's already getting close to 4:30, or not for you guys, 1:30, but so this is called an anchor activity. And this is really powerful for parents, teachers, administrators, and children. And it's identifying your anchors. And an anchor, if you think about what an anchor does, it really helps you to feel grounded or balanced. So we ask each other, who are the people that anchor you? What places anchor you? Maybe it's under your favorite tree. Maybe it's taking a walk on a path that you love. Maybe it's your favorite chair in your bedroom, or it's a spot on the couch where you always sit. Doesn't have to be a vacation spot. What things anchor you? What objects feel good to you? What snacks? Like for me, I love popcorn. If I'm feeling dysregulated, I know just if I just grab a handful of popcorn and it just feels good to me. I love crushed ice. If I'm in the middle of a school day and I don't have time to take a 5-minute walk, I'll pop a lemon drop in my mouth, a lemon cough drop. So we ask for objects and things, and then times of the day that feel good to you, days of the week that are your favorite, months of the year. And then we ask, is there anything else that anchors you? And then these are my anchors. So then we put our anchors in a Google Doc. And so like, for instance, my principal will know that, okay, Lori loves chocolate, podcasts, almonds, a Starbucks venti dark roast, crushed ice, cough drops, scented hand lotion. And so all of our students and our staff have, and this would be great to do as a family too, we've got our anchors identified. So once we identify them, then when we're having a rough day or we're feeling really anxious, then we've got those. We've already identified that, you know what, going outside and shooting baskets for 5 minutes feels good to me. I need to go color for a couple of minutes. I'm going to go pet the cats for a couple. I mean, I know what they are, and I'm aware of what I need to do in this moment. I do want to share this real quickly. We do know right now that anxiety is our nation's new learning disability. And we are seeing this not only from children, but I don't care if I'm at the airport, I'm at the grocery or the gas station or a school event. Our adults right now are about as dysregulated as the kids.
Oh, yes,
And
for sure.
emotions are contagious. And so we pick up on each other's emotions immediately. And we've been talking about this in school with our 7th grade students because the brain has a negative bias. Mm-hmm. And we have a brain for 3 purposes in priority is survival. So we are with this negative bias because survival is why we have a nervous system. And if we feel any type of threat, or we feel unsafe, or something feels unfamiliar, we protect ourselves. And that behavior can look disrespectful, it can look oppositional or defiant. Mm-hmm. But we know that recognizing that and naming that is really important. And we also have a brain for feeling. Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor shares, we are feeling and sensing creatures who think. We are not thinking creatures who feel. And when we feel and sense safety, then we can learn. So the 3rd purpose for a brain is cognition. And yet the focus right now in our schools across this country, and I don't want to speak for all countries, but in the United States right now, the focus is on the learning loss that occurred during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. And what we are missing, I mean, we're missing the mark hugely, is that if we don't feel safe And if we don't feel felt, we don't learn.
Yes, that is so true, because it's just, it puts us into our limbic system, so we don't have that flexibility into our brain. And I wanted just to mention, I was watching one of your talks, and I really love this part of it where your husband drew the brain and the kids were able to connect with that. So when you say, you know, you need to say it in order to really feel it and connect it, type of thing, your husband made the brain, and what a great exercise that is so valuable for kids, teenagers, and adults, is being able to actually put in parts of the brain what they're feeling. It's something like the tree, I guess. It's a type on same line as the tree.
Yeah, so this is, I don't know if you, so this is a little brain that we use with the kids. And so and I would have done this as a family, we would have had this in our like probably family room or kitchen area. And so the kids can decorate this. I mean, it's just a paper. I also have one of the autonomic nervous system, but our kids come in and they share, am I in, am I above the line, on the line, or below the line? So if I'm feeling calm and safe and I'm feeling curious, then my brain goes way above the line. If I'm on the line, I'm feeling kind of meh, just blah. And if I'm below that line, that's saying I'm feeling irritated or anxious, or I'm feeling angry. And you don't even have to state it, but it's it's a great way to start really just talking about our neuroanatomy, because our kids love the science. And when we don't focus so much on behavior and focus on the science, the kids feel empowered and they feel excited to learn about it.
Yeah, you could see that they would feel empowered, because now they can actually label it exactly what's going on inside their bodies. And be able to, if they can't express themselves verbally, they're able to color in even the different colors of where they're feeling on those zones, which I think is just absolutely awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you've brought in so much knowledge and expertise to this platform. I can't thank you enough. It's just awesome. And I know that your website has a whole bunch on it. You do have, I think you were doing weekly mindfulness as well. I was following that for a while too. You're getting on and you're talking about like the breathing and all that stuff too is very important. And like you're hitting home with, we got to take care of ourselves in order to help anybody else.
Yeah, it begins with us. My website. Also, I write for Edutopia, so there may be some articles. If you Google Lori Desautels Edutopia, and then I have a YouTube channel too. That I created a lot, especially during COVID, created a lot of videos for parents, families, and for educators.
Right. So yeah, you can get a hold of that on your website.
The website is revelationsineducation.com. I can even put it in here if you want me to.
Sure.
So I don't even know if I spelled that right, but revelationsineducation.com.
Yeah, so I mean, this is awesome, because I actually forgot to put it in the workbook. I don't know why I did that, but I meant to put everybody's email addresses in there. So this is perfect. So everybody can go to there and, seek out all of your wonderful tools that you've got on there. You've got a lot of great tools on there to use, and just following you and weekly on that meditation. And it's very empowering.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you all very much for having me. And have a great rest of your Saturday. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for taking time out for us today.